stands up, but now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Working Wing, the podcast / nebulous online entity where every week we bring you the week's news from a working leftist perspective. My name is Tim Schultz, and joining me, as always, my dear friend, longtime debate partner, and a man who makes Max Arias look like Howard Schultz, Killian Collins is here.
Thanks, Tim. Great to see you, too. You had a bit of a mismatch there, as you see, because
mixing topics there,
but
the theme remains intact.
Yeah. So, we try to kind of keep our stuff on domestic stuff going on here, just to kind of keep it relevant to American working people and stuff. But we're looking a little bit abroad today, but we're kind of keeping it like it's kind of a theme of the week.
This is relevant to working people in America because we need to take a lesson from our comrades overseas in France, who this week went on a massive strike. Tens of thousands, hundreds. I'm not actually, I should get a little more clarity on the number. I'll come back to you with that. But massive strikes, massive protests.
Well, there had been like factions striking in Paris for already a few months.
Yeah, it's been going on for a couple months. I've been keeping quiet tabs on it. It really, this week was the straw that broke the camel's back because President Emmanuel Macron, after failing to pass his pension reform, raising the minimum retirement age from 62 to 64 through the legislature. He failed to advance the bill through the legislature, and so he decided, you know what? I'm just going to push it through anyways.
Yes.
So that instituted one wave of protests at the beginning of the week. In response, the legislature mounted an attempt to basically oust the entire government. And that failed by 9 votes. It's one of the closest votes of this type in France. I think there's only been one successful example of this of a vote like that succeeding, and this one failed by 9 votes, which set off another massive wave of protests just yesterday.
Yeah,
as we sit here recording this,
and we're talking things that we're not talking just burning garbage on the streets. We're talking about people who are core to the functioning of a city, like garbage men not picking up the trash that's all left around, and that's with everybody. That's with the whole collective community has to suffer. You even have people who work for people working electricity, they're them shutting off Macron's power.
Yes. I read a story this morning that apparently a bunch of sanitation workers, because there was a key swing faction in the legislature that went for that supported Macron and kept the vote from succeeding. And so sanitation workers dumped trucks full of garbage outside the 15 members of that swing bloc.
Yeah.
Just hilarious, delightful, petty shit that we need more of.
It's so funny. It's kind of just like a pipe dream, for a lot of Americans here, where we just go damn, those French really know how to stick it to their government. They really know how to stick it to them. They know how to make the man know that they're really upset with that decision.
Yeah. Well, also there's always, I feel an undercurrent, just based on French history, of yes, we are setting stuff on fire, and yes, we are dumping garbage outside your house, and yes, we cut your power. But be grateful we did not cut something else.
Yeah.
That the people, especially of Paris, have been known to cut before in their history.
Well, and it's especially because it's what really makes this, I think what makes these protests so hot, what makes the people so hostile is that the fact that it's the overturning of the legislature. Like it's like, and not for something that's like a popular opinion, for something that's a very unpopular
80%,
opinion.
85% of the populace opposes this pension reform, and they are pushing it through anyways.
So it's not that type of executive decision where it's used to really outweigh a minority that's taken majority power in government, which is like kind of what I expect from like the benevolent executive. Like if you're going to be a benevolent executive of people, you're going to take public opinion as your guiding compass. That's going to be your morning star. And you're going to use that to kind of guide like how what you make and break. But this is kind of like very apparent to kind of been like one of Macron's little missions for this is like
this is something that he's been talking about doing since like 2015. When he first got elected. And he failed in his first term, and he's like term limited now. So that's basically why he decided to force this through. Is because he can't be,
he's a lame duck.
Yeah, he's a lame duck. It makes you wonder what Biden is going to get up to, and if he gets a lame duck term as president, what is he going to get up to? Once he no longer needs to like pretend for people on Reddit that he like gives a fuck about them.
I don't think
what kind of damage is he going to do on his way out?
I mean, he's really just gonna. I mean, with those people, he's just gonna like roll back to them and just kind of. I mean, it's the same reason he got people to vote for him in the first place. He's gonna just like fear. It's just gonna be fear mongering about like, well, look how bad the Republicans are making things, and it's like. I mean, honestly, it's not much of an argument. It's kind of as weak of an argument it was for Hillary Clinton because, you know, like he doesn't have many results to show for. It's like, well, yeah, like we're out of the pandemic. It's like, well, that's kind of like we expected you to do that. Like, I mean, it's still kind of like how the pandemic was. It's like, well, we didn't do very well. Like, all things considered, like it could have been way better, but you know, it wasn't like, hey, like like, hey, our economy didn't like it still tanked and we still had like a huge death toll and like we really got the worst of both worlds.
we did. Although, the argument we made that without like the lockdowns that everyone complains about, the death toll could have been worse.
Well, and that's true.
Like we have like what, a million, 1.2, something like that, COVID deaths. It could have been like 5 to 10 times worse.
I mean,
followed like the same path as like
I mean, that's the thing is that we don't know the could have either.
Well, yeah, the only other example we have is like the 1918 pandemic,
and that's a different disease and a different time, different technology. Like there's all these factors that come out. Mostly, I feel like the only comparison we really have is like how other countries handled it, and like we have like things and like with like
there's no country that took less severe COVID measures and had better outcomes in terms of like death tolls.
There's other tolls too, but like you know that's another discussion. But that's why I'm trying to say
that's a digression.
I'm not necessarily. I mean, it's like there are, but like it's like we don't even know if like necessarily these tolls are one thing or another. All I'm trying to get at is that it's like the comparison that we have is like how other countries were and how we can say like how things did. Mostly I'm trying to get at is that like if they want people to like if they want to shut the economy down and have people take lockdown seriously, they need to be giving more stimulus than just the one-time check.
They're like actual people, right? Yeah. Instead of what they did, which was basically just open up trillions of dollars to fraud.
Yes,
and that's they are quickly coming to like. Because like I was just listening to like a story about this just this evening while I was working, and like the feds have no idea at this moment in time how much fraud there was.
Yeah,
100 billion is like one early estimate, but like they have no idea. 100 billion might be a conservative estimate to how much of that money was misappropriated.
And what's scary to think about is that like the people who they're going to target for that money are the people who are like stole the least, or people who even people who didn't even take shit. Like,
well, yeah, like one of the big things was committing identity fraud to get, multiple PPP loans. So they are finding just thousands upon thousands of people who had their identity stolen and had loans taken out in their names, and now the government is going to those people trying to cash loans, trying to get their get their money back.
I mean, that's what they're gonna fucking. I mean, like, what else do you expect the U.S. government to do? Just like, like be honest, like go through on their word.
Yeah.
Not give up subsidiaries to like large corporations and and like the more evil the better.
The more evil the better, indeed.
If they can steal from other countries, the best. If they can steal from poor Americans, still pretty good.
Yeah. So back to France.
Yeah.
They are based as fuck. We need to be more like them. We need to be more. But like the thing that we just have a different like set of like cultural. Well, goddamn Protestant work ethic of ours, and so many like built in like.
I think what a big difference is, Tim, is like a big difference you see with like, let's say like the BLM protests in 2020 and these protests in France is that like they are shutting down industries. Like there are like they're bringing the city to a standstill, much like, and I know this might trigger an argument, but this is much like how like the trucker stuff was going on. Like, well, they're putting the city at a standstill. Like, yes, you need to use your point in industry to create a bottleneck. You need to stop profit from rolling in. You need to make sure that the people who cause these things aren't going to be able to live the way that they were living. It's not violent. It's pretty much just like just like a social sanction. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty much a sanction of just like, well, you don't get to use these services. Like, if you want to cut these benefits to the people who are providing you these services, you're not going to get those services anymore.
Yeah,
that is pretty much exactly what. That's the only thing I think of.
The trucking thing was different because
a different cause, but it's the shutting the city down
because that it wasn't the entire trucking industry. It was like 2.5% of the affected truckers.
But Tim, the thing is that a movement is 2.5. It's not the whole fucking thing. It's like it's a small percentage that's willing to get out there.
You said the method is to deprive service, and that's not what happened with the trucking protest.
I mean, but Tim, what they were doing is they were making sure that city couldn't function. Like that is a loss of something to consider. Like, I mean, that's a method that's still depriving them of something. It's like, yeah, they don't have they don't have the numbers to shut the whole industry down, but it's like, that's enough numbers to like start causing something like that. And that's not without having like a whole union behind them or anything like that either. And even with this like Paris stuff, it's like, well, this isn't like the massive there's people who are against this. There's people there who are against, who think that these protesters are a bunch of like violent maniacs. Like that's absolutely true, Tim. It's just that they decided to use industry by people who were professionals. And it's the fact that the people who like work day to day, who depend on these things, are willing to take the radical position of saying, hey, I'm willing to put this all on the line and risk my job and like and all of this because I know I have like my coworkers behind me. I know they're going to back me up on this. They're on the same page, and we're willing to go through with this until we need it. Like it's that fervor you need, and that's not going to be everyone. It's not going to be everyone at all. Not everyone's built for that type of thing. But it's gonna have to be people who are willing to like get their asses out there, shut the shit down, and then like stand behind the line when like when the police start throwing tear gas at them. Like that's the thing. Many Americans are not willing to sign up for that because they don't have the fervor. They don't see the whole world to win. But like the French are a lot more optimistic than we are, and like that's the kind of fervor we need to build for people like that. We need to build that like 2% of it. And I'm not sure. And all I'm trying to give the truckers, Tim, is that it's like it's not the whole pie, but it's enough to get something to shut down that essential service. Because that's what starts even getting the media out. Even if it's like a cause like it's not super popular or anything, or if it is super popular, you just want it to be in the media. like, which this is. I mean, there's people who look at this, like people in America who will just go like, well, it's only a 2-year, like, 2 years, like age jump in the pension. It's like, well, but that's 2 years of your fucking life that you're going to be spending working without your kids. And like, that's how pissed off these people are about that. It's not a fucking willy-nilly thing like how it is in America, where it's like, you deserve a pay cut, fuck you. And it's like, and that I have this discussion with other coworkers sometimes, where they just they treat it, they really do treat some things like it's handed up from the top, and you just have to listen. Like it's like the army or something, and it's not. It's not like the army. It's like it's a negotiation you have with your employer. It's a negotiation that you have with society. It's our whole society is built upon trust and knowing that we can trust the other side that we have to make deals with all these transactions that we do day to day to day. The hundreds of things we do every day. But shutting that down for having your essential needs met for the future, like yeah, that's what you have to do. You need to shut down. You need to make things uncomfortable in the present to win things for the future. And a lot of Americans are not that kind of optimistic. They just want to go home and have the beer.
I saw a comment on Reddit, and I forget that I was browsing during some downtime at work, but they were talking about how Americans don't come out and strike, and they made the suggestion that in lieu of striking, like what would happen if like 100,000 people simultaneously just like withdrew all their money from like Chase Bank and like put it.
Well, here's the problem with that, Tim.
Like, you don't need cash to do that anymore. Like SVB kind of showed that you can orchestrate massive bank runs without ever having to like be physically present.
But Tim, the thing is, the problem with SVB Bank and Chase and all those giants is that most of them are supported by businesses, and they're not gonna take their money out of that. Like us, like small people, it's like they can lose all
that
our
is
money.
The thought I had is that the problem with SVB was that they had so many huge accounts all get withdrawn, and it wasn't there's a type depositor.
Yeah, there's a big difference between our savings account or even a family savings account, and then like a small business is still gonna like be having way more in any of those accounts.
Small business.
But I mean, still seriously though, it's like even if like to take even a smaller business and like I actually on the scale of a small business, and it's like they ain't like they're still gonna be dwarfing us in personal stuff, but it's like it is one of those financial rigmaroles of like, well, what can you do economically if you want? I mean, like shit, I don't bake any of these major things. Like
neither do I. I bank at a regional bank here in Wisconsin.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't got a CU. But
I'm not in a CU anymore. I'm at North Shore, which is like a regional.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I would love, great Wisconsin. If you ever want, if we ever have, a state senate that has any damn sense, a public bank would be a great idea in Wisconsin. I'd throw my money right in there. Yeah, I'd support it. Like I could get other people to support it too. But hey, whatever. That's just a walking dream. But enough on the facades. We can go back to America, where there's actually labor struggles here.
Labor action is heating up in America as well. With the so it's not a strike. What happened in LA this past week was not a strike. It was a labor stoppage in response to to unfair labor practices by LA Unified School District, LAUSD.
I have an important question. What is the difference between that and a strike?
Well, strikes are indefinite. When you declare a strike, you say we ain't coming back until we get what we want.
Oh, but with this, they're like saying we're coming back we're taking a week off to.
Yeah, we're taking 3 days. They're actually I think school is back in session today.
Yeah.
Friday.
That's March what I was reading too. Is that work is resuming without a union, without a settlement agreed, exactly. and that's you know, it's a tactic, but
this is kind of like it's a tactic, because the French have been doing this, like you said, for months, and it's been like the garbage workers aren't coming to work this week; they'll be back next week. We're gonna block 60% of the trains from running these days, and these other trains from running these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole there's a whole organized method to this labor madness.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's interesting. The key takeaway to me from the LA situation is the importance of solidarity. When we talk about like labor action with any industry, you need solidarity. You need because the service worker. So there's the workers who are in negotiations with the school district right now are the service workers, Local 99 of the Service Employees International Union.
So those are like the cafeteria staff,
workers,
janitors,
bus drivers, janitors,
yeah.
special education.
See, and that's what's crazy. Special education, folks. I want to pay attention to that because that is a job that requires like that is basically like a special teacher that gets paid less.
Paid less. But has to deal with the most difficult kids in the school.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. I might even hesitate to be ableist and say, not necessarily ableist, but it's, kids that have needs that like are not met by like the rest.
Conventional classroom instruction.
Yeah. Pretty much. And it's like, it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of care for less money than a teacher, folks. That's like
for $25,000. They're currently making $25,000 a year in Los Angeles,
which is like I can barely survive on that.
Well below the poverty line. Yeah, like I would be hard pressed to survive here in Kenosha, Wisconsin, on $25,000 a year as like a single dude. And they are expected to do it in one of the most expensive cities on the planet.
Yeah.
It's absolute madness. So yes, the service workers are demanding a 30% raise, but crucially, them walking off is not what shut down Los Angeles schools this week. What shut down Los Angeles schools is that the teachers union said, while our comrades here in the school district are on strike, we are not going to, or on a labor stoppage, we are not going to come into work either. Solidarity within industries is crucial for successful action.
Yeah. And that's why our labor laws in America have been worked so hard to make sure that you can't go on sympathy strikes.
Yes.
But and the thing is, because at the end of the day, we all are just one big union. We all are just one big.
We should be.
Yeah. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we fucking are. Like, we just have to like fucking realize it. Like, we just have to get others to like kind of shake off that little bullshit of like individualism of like going like, well, no, I don't want to like take that away from the rich guy because I might be him. It's like, well, it's not gonna be you though. But we could all just do better. we could all just live like a middle class life or an upper middle class life or just something. We could all just live better than what we're living right now. Then like we're just kind of like a crab in a crab processing factory, just waiting to go into the shredder, just seeing what happens to the person ahead of us, going, oh, that's not going to happen to me.
Right.
It's like, well,
so yeah, and so now they are coming back to work in LA, but talks are actually ongoing.
Yeah.
Which one of the claims that the service union made in the lead up was that the district was not participating in good faith negotiations. That many times they were ghosted when it came to like negotiation sessions. And then I think the breaking point was when school district officials started talking about the negotiations publicly, which is you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. Because I was reading on the AP and there was some stats in there.
Right. Because like the superintendent came out and started spouting off about how he had just made the biggest offer the school district had ever made in a labor negotiation in its entire history. trying to like turn public sentiment against the union.
Yeah, against the striking workers. And that's the thing, is that like like they're gonna toss out these people that they depend on for, you know, all these little essential things, and then once the people who actually have more of a face to the industry have to come in and like provide face for them, then they come forward, and it's still not quite enough. It's still not quite what the union was asking for.
What they're offering is like a 23% raise, but it's the same fakey fake bullshit that they did with the raise for the railroad workers that we talked about, where it's like, all right, you guys have been working without any raise since 2020, so we're going to backdate that part, and then we're going to give you a little bit in like a 5-year plan going forward. But it's like, if you break down the numbers, this is not keeping up with inflation.
Well, no, it's not at all. It's not keeping up for the future inflation. It's not even, it's like by the time they catch up to like 2024, 2025, they're going to be catching up to like what they should have been paid last year.
Right, exactly. And the union has put out a number which is $36,000. They want average pay for their members to be $36,000, which in LA does not strike me as ridiculous at all.
That doesn't strike that strikes me as like, I don't have to worry about, like, I don't have to eat ramen every night and like work.
Not every night, but like, yeah, again, like, but I get like for $36,000, they're probably not living in like LA proper, right? They're probably not like.
I mean, there's some. It's expensive all around there too, and that's the thing. It's California, because like even like it's Southwest California, but it's like, yeah, in one of the most expensive cities in America. It's like you ain't gonna be doing great. Like, I mean, and here's the thing too. It's not New York. You need a car. Like,
exactly.
You need a car and insurance and like all that shit there too. And we saw with our friend in LA, like you can be a great driver and just get like swiped from the side and then just never see the guy again. like you just, like you didn't do anything wrong. Like
you were just driving and someone sideswiped you. Like, what are you supposed to do about that?
Yeah, it's just like literal GTA.
And like, so to me, this is also a good, what we have this week is a contrast between like what it looks like when two well-established unions work in concert to carry out an action.
Yeah.
And then we have a contrast to how hard it is to actually build an established union in this country. Which is, I would point to what's happening at Starbucks. And you don't hear, I kind of actually had to like go digging for like hard numbers and like a good overview of what's going on with Starbucks. But so the Starbucks union is new. I think their first store was in Buffalo, and that was validated in 2021.
And this is a lot different than like, the Amazon labor union struggle, where it's like a whole facility. This is
Amazon labor movement is dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's a hope it could be revived, and like, it's. But I mean, I don't want to say never right now, Tim, but it's definitely lost a lot of momentum.
As someone on the inside looking out, I think the right now, currently, it is dead. Maybe it can be resuscitated down the line, but I am not seeing a lot of impetus for union. Partially because Amazon is being smarter than Starbucks, but we'll get into that. So Starbucks union has 240 stores. That's the estimate I kept seeing when I was looking at different sources. Around 240 stores nationwide went on strike. They got their demands. They want better pay, better benefits, a more stable work schedule.
Really meek things, like really, really, like not like huge asks either. Like,
yeah, no.
Because I just want to point that out to people, like whenever they're just kind of coming for the, oh no, they're just asking for so much, like they just get paid the best ever. Because that was the big talking point that Scott Walker was using against the teachers in Wisconsin, is that like our public service workers, like our public service workers work, they get paid this much, and a private sector worker gets paid that much. That's just not fair, is it? It's not fair, huh? It's like, well, yeah, the privates, they're like have them teach. Like they're gonna suck at it.
Yeah. Well, and especially now when like there's a huge teacher shortage. There's a huge and ongoing teacher shortage. There's a huge shortage everywhere.
Well, it's not worth it. It's not worth it financially to do it. Like it's at the point where like you're sacrificing something, where it's like you're basically like it's like you're committing yourself to you're going to the convent or something if you have to like if you want to become a teacher. It's like if you're going to college for like a liberal arts degree is like being a teacher now, and that's really sad. Where it's like because people are treating it as if it's like a risk that you're going to take on, like educating the youth.
Because you're never going to make shit as a teacher. And
we need this position. We need it. Like we need it.
Yeah.
Like what are we gonna do? We're just gonna rely on Cuba to like just like educate all the doctors and then send them here. Like is that what we're gonna do? Like
so yeah, and Starbucks has been brutal. Like flagrantly brutal in their union suppression. Just closing down whole stores, firing employees.
The type of things you fear if you talk about starting a union with your coworkers.
Right. And like LAUSD, it should also be noted, was also up to shenanigans, like reclassifying members of the bargaining team.
Oh yeah.
So that they made less money or were qualified for fewer benefits. Typical evil shit like that.
Yeah.
But Starbucks has been cited at least 80 times by the National Labor Relations Board.
If only they had some teeth.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. And like I think Biden made a mention of that in the State of the Union, that he wanted to increase the teeth of the National Labor Relations Board, but I mean that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. That's a remember me next year type of thing.
That would sound more convincing if he hadn't employed the same firm that Bezos employed to bust the New York union.
Yeah. So I mean him meeting Chris Smalls, it was just a ploy thing because it's just like
right.
I'm just gonna be in bed with your enemies.
Other notes about Starbucks: Howard Schultz is going to be testifying in the Senate next week. He's being called to get scolded by Principal Sanders about what a bad boy he's been to his workers.
Kind of like the little like season 2 of Succession with you have that Bernie Sanders guy, who's like that author and the new Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah. Side note: did you know that Succession comes back this weekend?
No, dude.
That totally snuck up on me, but it comes back this Sunday. Yeah, I was really excited.
Oh man, dude. Oh man, but we'll go for my boy Tom here, man. Tom.
Oh yeah, Tom and Greg for season 4 victors.
Yes, I hope so. I hope they win that dead empire. that empire that is truly fucked and they don't know what to do with it, and then they split it up much like the Roman Empire.
I think so, yeah,
but we'll see. That's our hot take. That's our hot take.
Our hot take for Succession predictions. But so like Howard Schultz has been busting the unions pretty hard, and he's just been fucking stingy as well. Because I think one of the reasons why Amazon has kind of killed its union movement, brutal suppression, to be sure. But then also they handed out a pretty massive raise towards the end of last year.
To make it seem like it's like, I mean, and that's a hell of a convincing argument too, because honestly, most of these issues that like people are striking over or like have to like go like or have an issue with their boss over is mostly about the standard of living that they have to live.
If people are threatening to strike for a 6% raise, it's like, well, if you don't strike, we'll just give you a 4% raise.
Yeah. Yeah, like the guaranteed money now than the maybe 2% difference. Like that's it's a devious tactic.
It is.
It's a devious tactic.
And it undercuts everything else that the union wants too, which is like, you know,
a more flexible schedule. Like
more
that's
more flex scheduling, more time. Well, Amazon already does a pretty good job of giving flexible time off. I'm undercutting my own argument here, but
yeah. I've got Tim like you better work smarter, not I mean, another thing to use is that like these companies are not. I would say they're not doing it smarter. They're doing it more capitalistically. They're more evil. Is what it is. It's like it's kind of like well, yeah, like the con man isn't being smart. They're just manipulating. Like they're just being tricky. Like it doesn't mean at all they're being like there's no intellectual like benevolence there, or I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, but there's not like they're not like intellectually at a higher level. They're just they're just evil. Like they're just evil. They're just using their leverage like in a bad faith way, in a position where if you and I were negotiating like this, we wouldn't be friendly. Like we wouldn't be friendly at all. This would be a very chunky kind of relationship. But that's usually but it's mostly the type of thing it comes down to when you have like that kind of relationship with your boss like that. Like if it gets cantankerous enough where where like you're not being given enough and they're ignoring you and telling you just to deal with it, then yeah, you're gonna have some problems on your hands, which is like why that if you're a good capitalist, you're gonna have some shit on the side. That's why like you have the orientation where you say, well, everyone here's a family, man. Everyone here's a family, man. Like we're cool. And it's always that same thing because they're trying to convince you emotionally that you need this place so they don't have to make up financially, which is the reason that you're actually there. And that's the conversation they really don't want to have. They want to have the like, no, man, like we're just cool being here, dude. Like we're just cool. Like we're out here making money, man. Like it's awesome. It's like, well, I'm making you money though. So I mean, like, and hey, let's
you way more money than you're paying me.
Yeah, like right. And it's like we can make this deal, but it's like I'm helping you and you're helping me. So like, but let's keep each other happy and do this. Like we agreed on a contract to have us start this up here, but it's not taken. There's many Americans who are scared, who think that who feel that there is no better way. I was talking to a coworker a few days ago who was basically going back to like when they graduated and when they were in they got into this industry in 08. And they were saying that like when people when the recession happened, they were saying that he got used to people saying like, well, just take a hike. And it really scared the shit out of people. And nowadays with COVID, that's changed a little bit. Some industries are starting to lay people off again.
Well, tech, basically just tech. So
it's not just tech either. Like I know people who were like worked in pharmaceuticals who like because of the big influx. Yeah. And that is interesting because there's a big influx of that and then it gets cut out. And there are industries that like during the pandemic that like we're more dependent on, and those industries grew. But then as the years go on and those pandemic needs aren't quite as necessary, then those that need for expansion that they grew into, they can cut that out. So it's and so like these people just get like like left to dry and told that the economy is great, even though it's not. Like it is kind of just making up for levels that like that we had like pre-pandemic. It's I kind of want to get back to even with the LA union, like with the LA union strike and the teacher stuff. It's like these people are having to make up for the lost time, like for like the lack of education those kids got during the pandemic with the lack that they were already at in 2019. Yeah, which is significant. Everybody, like it's nothing to scoff at, especially like our schools, especially in major cities, are not getting to really formally educate our kids. Like it's our next generation is walking in like more barren than we are. Like especially like a lot of these public schools are like left like bare like with nothing to work with here. Yeah, and then they pay them less and less and less.
No, it's dire. It's dire. And like I was actually very interested to see that the teachers did a work stoppage because I think they are in line for negotiations themselves in the near future,
and they can hold the line. Like they that's what's good.
They held the line. They performed a work stoppage, which if they were to do that for them, when it comes to negotiations, like it's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. That will be interesting. But yeah, dude, it's all these topics all together. I was kind of thinking overall with it. What makes me a little more optimistic about it is it's like it's not just I mean, you and I fight over like leftist politics and shit all the fucking time, and we're way closer like on the political spectrum to each other than we are with many other political colors and stripes.
Yes.
And the thing is, though, Tim, is that I think that still you and I, at the end of the day, we will still throw many of things like aside for each other because like we're buddies, like we got each other's backs, like it's like like like. And the hard part is too, I think what makes it hard about forming a union like in America is it's hard to find that with how divided things are here with like people who really do think things that like bother you all the time. That really like, they do bother you and they're not your buddy. And like, they think things that are like, that might be kind of problematic. They're kind of ignorant about some stuff. They kind of, there's all these, they're not there yet in a lot of these things. And with all these movements collectively, all these people are throwing all that shit aside and saying what matters is what affects you and I together. And like what matters is what's going to boost our livelihoods like all together. Like fuck the individual shit. Like fuck our little like side feelings. We can throw that aside. Like people stop being selfish ultimately. And I think it's a hard thing to let go of in America where we're very individualistic and we're very about like us. And we think we need to find a way. I mostly, Tim, I think we just kind of we got to focus on being like kinder. Like we need to be focused on like not telling people what we think, but listening to what their real concerns are at work, even if we disagree with them. But where can we find that little bit of footing where we know that, yeah, they don't care about this. They don't care about this, but they do care about this though. Okay. And I can align that with this person who doesn't care about that as much, but they're more on board with this other thing. Okay, cool. Okay. So I think a lot of this, if I want to push anything home, is it's about like, talk to your coworkers, folks, make alliances where you can. Show them that as a leftist that like, you're not insane and you just want to work with other people. That you want to have like the big group, like don't be divisive, be collective.
Yes. And be careful when and where you talk to your coworkers because a lot of these places will fire you for saying the U word.
Yes.
Especially on company premises or on company time.
It is. And inevitably when you do organize any of these things, like stuff gets out, stuff does happen. It's a lot harder to have a person who holds their fate in your hands. It's a lot harder for them to fire you if they really, really, really like you. if they know you're good. I'm not saying it's a foolproof. I'm just saying that's why it's important to make inroads with people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's gonna save your ass. I'm just saying that when they get rid of the people who do work hard and who are asking for something reasonable, and all they are is good to everyone around them, starts kind of showing what their real narrative is.
Yes.
Not to say that like you'll be that martyr, but folks,
it's a tough ask. It's a tough ask.
But there's a type of ask you're gonna have to ask your coworkers though too. Like that's the type of thing, man. Like when what starts radicalizing people is when they see the messed up stuff happen. And it's like, I don't want to wait for a work accident for that type of stuff to happen. I'd rather say something and have it be ahead. And you might not be loved for some of these things, but hey, like sometimes this shit's just basic. Like,
yeah.
It just not being followed. I don't know. Do you have anything to add on top before I continue the ramble?
I kind of disagree that, yes, being well liked at work will help you inspire other workers. I don't think it would ever help you protect your job.
I never saying it was. I'm not saying it was.
Because I've seen a number of times actually people who thought that because they were a good worker they had more leverage than they turned out to have when push came to shove.
Oh, you won't have that with your boss. I'm trying to say people are going to have that leverage with is the workforce, the people who are making the production, which ultimately that's in the hands of who's going to strike.
Yes.
And they hold the power. Like it's the coworkers. It's coworkers.
Yes, indeed. All right. Do we have anything else to talk about? I know you have a passport appointment to get to.
Yeah. No, that's
Killian's making my country.
I'm going to China. No, I don't know enough Chinese. I just know ni hao. Tim, you know more.
Ni hao ma. You should.
I know Bing Chilling.
I speak Chinese very badly.
I'll just be singing Bing Chilling like the way John Cena sang it for the Fast and Furious promotion.
All right.
And I do have one thing to say, Tim.
Oh yes,
because we're talking. Well, before we end it, we always end off our podcast saying, "Keep on working."
But sometimes
you gotta strike. So I think we'll probably add that one in this time on our exit tro here. Like, and then
I like that.
I'll add on. Yeah, but yeah. Well, folks, though, it has been great. Thank you for joining all of us.
Yeah,
it's always good. It's always good to like come on here and talk a little.
Yeah, like and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. Comments. We'll be here every week. All right. Until next time, Zai Jen, and keep on striking.
Keep on striking.